I call upon all nations to do everything they can to stop these terrorist killers. Thank you. Now watch this drive.
A local shelter dog, rather, is looking for a soft landing after being dumped by his owners because they say he's gay.
Bill Gates did not invent anything.
You know that volcano that just erupted? There was more CO2 released from that one volcano erupting than everything human beings have ever done.
Where did you find that?
The basic program was made by some mathematics professors.
Fact-checked, volcanoes do not produce more CO2 emissions than human activity.
The Office operating system was by a software engineer, and he bought it for $50,000.
Because a hungry dog is an obedient dog. Well, if we're not causing people to be hungry to work, then we're providing them with all the meals they need sitting at home.
Capitalism is exploitation.
Now watch this drive.
Hi there. I would like to make a comment about your podcast. Carl said something about the reasons why people get DUIs, and he seems to be a bootlicker because he said the only reason that you would get a DUI is if you were driving erratically, maybe too slow, or you were swerving, or whatever. And I would like to just bring to Carl's attention that a lot of the times when people get DUIs, it's because maybe they have a brake light out, or they forgot to use their blinker, or maybe they're black or not white. So I just wanted to make a comment. Feel free to submit this to the We Do Crime podcast voicemail if you'd like. Bye.
I've been saying this.
Got him.
That was my partner who called me and left me a voicemail and refuses to use the voicemail on the website.
So she'd rather do a super low quality.
Yeah, while she was driving
Sounds
to
like
class.
a moving car.
Yeah, while she was driving to class.
Some of us worked really hard on that voicemail feature. So that does sting a little bit. No, a lot of people have been saying this, and
yeah,
I've gotten
many people that
we've gotten a lot of DMs and messages that are saying you have to get Carl off the show because he's basically he's Jordan Peterson.
I do love
He's
the
like
taste of clean rubber on the bottom of a cup's.
Or you don't like it.
So you go for the bottom. You lick the bottom.
You gotta lick the bottom. Isn't that?
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah,
that's the least. I would say that's the least clean rubber.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My frame of reference for licking boots is different than everybody else's.
Yeah, no one ever really talks about the logistics of it. Nobody ever talks about like which cut of the boot you like the most.
Because I always think like you're bowing down to lick the top, but yeah, if you're getting stepped on, then that's a whole different perspective.
Yeah,
dude, but now it's getting like
when
weirdly
they step on you, you're like, oh, this.
Why are you licking
so
it at
good.
this point?
Well, there's gum or something on the bottom that you got to be licking. Katie does have a point. I actually overlooked those things that cops do give people DUIs just for when they're pulling over people for random things, and
yeah.
I don't know if that makes me a bootlicker, but
no, that's just the final
Especially
nail
Arizona,
in the coffin,
they passed that law where cops can legally profile Latinos. Essentially, that was what it was targeted at.
Yeah,
in case they're illegals. I'm doing air quotes for the listeners.
Yeah, that should be.
That should be illegal.
There's a few things that we need to bring back. One of them is crucifixion for whoever proposed that.
Crucificate them.
Yeah, crucificate. You guys, did I send you guys that picture of the crucifix that I got? Yeah, or that I saw in the hospital the other day.
Oh, the one where it was just like floating in space or something.
It's like this new version of a crucifix where Jesus isn't actually nailed to the cross. He's kind of just floating on the cross, and his arms aren't nailed to the cross, his feet aren't nailed to the cross. He's just like floating, and he's got his arms actually like out, like
for a hug, right?
Yeah, kind of like a hug, but his shoulders are above like the cross, the actual cross section.
He's not to be outdone.
And I'm just like, I had to laugh. I was like, what the fuck is this?
A little bit,
yeah, like that. This is not the crucifixion.
I was with him up until this.
This is like the buddy. This is like the buddy Christ, from Dogma.
Realism has always been a guiding principle in the arts, and
I think I get it, but come on.
I think the picture wasn't he was fairly brown skinned though, so there was some realism to it.
It's more realistic than most crosses I've seen. Then in the cross that
I showed,
wasn't he?
No, the one that I showed was it was a brown cross, and then the Jesus was just like gold.
Oh, okay.
Like the emoji, the default emoji color. That's what. Let's dispense with the debate.
It was emoji
He's an
floating hug
opulent-
Jesus.
An opulent Jesus.
Jesus was Homer Simpson color.
That would be funny.
No.
Jesus
All
Christ.
right. Let's skip right to album on display. Can you read this one? Should I have covered it?
Kinda. Hold on, I gotta. Okay,
Gotta
so
cheat.
it kind of looks like graffiti on the wall, like on a wall or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's
And
like a
there's some-
really zoomed in like piece of a impressionist painting or something like that.
I can kind of see it. It's got yellow writing. It looks like it says "pinchers of coal" or something like that.
Nope.
Something of
Give you
something.
any? I don't know if any clues would really help.
Richers.
Okay, so you can read the last few letters. I take it of the first word.
Churs of something. Goat. Coat.
Okay, I bet listeners would actually have gotten it by just the pronunciation that you're doing right now.
Churs of goat.
Churs of goat.
It looks like a coat goat. That last word.
The last word is loaf.
Loaf. Oh. Pictures of loaf.
Pictures.
No, pictures like Pitchers. It doesn't make any sense.
No. I mean, actually, it doesn't make any sense, anyways. The real band.
It's hard because the first couple letters in the first word are yellow and blurry, and they're over like white.
Yeah,
graffiti.
it's all actually the same, but the camera angle is making it. It's a foil, so it's reflective.
Fletchers? Is it Chers at the end though?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The bleachers.
The bleachers of Loaf.
Bleachers of Loaf.
It's a
Preachers
band, from Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Preachers of Loaf. Fletchers of Loaf. Lechers of Loaf.
Web in Front is the big hit by this band, and it's the first track on this album.
It is Loaf?
Yeah, it's
Archers of Loaf.
Archers of Loaf. Yeah.
What does it mean? What do they mean by that?
I'm not really sure where they came up with this name, in all honesty. I really don't know. It's Eric Bachman, who's the lead singer. He had a pretty good solo career, and he's also in Crooked Fingers, which was essentially a solo act. But nonetheless, 93, really great record. Very weird indie rock, off-kilter kind of detuned, dissonant.
Because it isn't clear
rock.
what the band's name refers to.
Yeah.
But its quirkiness is in keeping with song titles like Hate Paste, Audio Whore, and Vocal Shrapnel.
They have a song called Power Walker. It's the best. It's like, Power Walker, why don't you just fucking run?
Oh, it says according to Alias Records,
Pretty
they didn't want to discuss their band name in every interview, so they made up the most nonsense name they could. Of course, it's the first question on every interviewer's list.
Yeah. So this is huge for me in high school, though. This is like the first Sonic Youth and this band were the first like kind of odd art rock, indie rock stuff that I listened to that kind of changed the whole direction from listening to, Pearl Jam and Nirvana and the more accessible rock that was getting popular at the time.
I always associated Sonic Youth with the drug crowd. Like the same, because I feel like the same people that listen to Sonic Youth were either the same people or friends with the people that loved the Grateful Dead.
Really?
Who were all just drug heads.
Yeah, it was only Grateful Dead.
They were all
in
weed
my
heads.
school. It was all just Grateful Dead folks. You'd have a few Fish folks thrown in there, but essentially
Bob
the same kind of
Marley,
thing.
every tie-dye all over the place. Everyone
Archers
has a
of
fucking
Loaf and
deadhead
Sonic
bear.
Youth was exclusive to the art punks, the ones that thought that they were better than you, and may still think they're better than you.
Yeah, they are.
They may know they're better than you.
Yeah, they're better than me. It's okay.
All right.
We should
see. Any questions?
Nobody can stop us. I think what would help me is somebody who's musically, I would say, stunted. If we could get the license to play some of these bad boys.
I think we can. It's a podcast, and no podcasts right now go through Content ID.
YouTube is adding more native support for podcasting, which is cool because most people that have a podcast that don't go through all the hoops of having it hosted somewhere with an RSS feed, they just distribute it as a thing on YouTube. And I think that they want to get a more formal hand on that ball. So it looks like they're letting you add your show by RSS feed, and they're potentially going to let you tag existing content as a podcast. I don't know if they're going to expose an RSS feed for other platforms.
I don't know how they're going to do that. Yeah,
they could. But that would be cool. But I think they kind of want everything on their platform. And they're of course doing it as an offshoot of YouTube Music, and that's competing largely with Spotify, who also does podcasts.
I mean, it would make sense. I feel like it wouldn't be that far-fetched to go straight from just streaming the audio as a podcast if you like as a non-video.
It is going to be audio only initially, but they're going to fast follow with video. The articles that I've seen have straight up mentioned that it's going to be Content ID, and the number one podcast category right now is music podcasts, followed by like sports.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of podcasts are just dedicated to like introducing artists and doing, DJ kind of stuff, like a radio show. And that's going to be
like Joe Rogan type stuff.
I would put him more in the sports category.
Well, it's going to turn, I think, a lot of people off to it just because podcasting is a medium that is somewhat decentralized in that there's not just one place you go for podcasts. It's distributed. A lot of people still just straight up download the files to their hard drive and listen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's those people. There's not many of them anymore, but that's still a thing. And so for YouTube to say, hey, basically, we want to be the podcasting platform and we want to make it more restricted, because that is a big part of, obviously, their model is in advertising, and nobody wants to advertise against things that don't follow whatever standards. And they want to have it just be the kind of injected advertisements into the audio and into the video podcast. That's their model. And podcasting in general, it's mostly live reads. Like, one of the reasons that you can get more money as a podcaster for the ad reads that you do is because podcasting as a medium has got more of like an intimate vibe to it. And so it's kind of like you're personally endorsing those ads. And so you don't really have the same like micro targeting. You're just basically just injecting it into content so either like really general purpose stuff like Squarespace or the meal service, things that don't really, the market is everyone.
Yeah, I've seen two different types of the ad stuff. I've seen the stuff where it is, the red, ads, but then I've also had those where it's basically just the whole podcast is bookended by the same 4 or 5 ads, which honestly, if you listen to like 3 or 4 of those, you get real tired of them real quick. And it's been a huge turnoff for me. I'd much rather them, read them, even though it's like the same idea, right? I'm still getting an ad served to me somehow, but
you're able to, I mean, with not that any advertising is really good, it always feels kind of dirty, but yeah. I think some of the most interesting advertisements are like the personal endorsement kind of things where you're able to sort of put your own spin on the read or whatever.
I actually don't mind the ones where people are actually pushing a product that they're not getting paid for, which isn't obviously necessarily actual advertising.
We're talking about ads. You want to talk about people talking about stuff they like?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I mean. It's just like, I don't know. Whenever someone's doing like a paid advert for something like that, it doesn't feel, I don't know, legit. It just feels
of course. And I think
bullshit. I think they don't actually give a fuck about NordVPN. You know what I mean? It's a
very common thing. Like, people just turn their brains off when they see like a banner ad or something that even feels like where a banner ad would be. Like, you don't even put your eyes there.
I was just talking about this the other day. It's signs. It's like billboard blindness. Banner blindness, billboard blindness.
Your brain is filtering out the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were driving in. Katie asked me. She's like, "Did you see the sign for the estate sale? Like, do you want to go?" I'm like, "I don't see any of these signs anymore." Like, I just,
you're being too productive.
If it's not a traffic sign, I tune it out.
Carl talking to people about ads they saw is like talking to the kid from The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, Carl's like, I don't even. These aren't fucking real. These can't be real.
No, they're not real.
I haven't seen a billboard in 20 years.
I wish I could say that, honestly. I never used to see billboards for the past several years. Like, I mean, I know they're there. I don't read them that often. And obviously, it's like, some of them are really bad. I think the art of billboarding is kind of lost in these new generations. You know what I mean, though? Like,
you're like one of those old ad guys who are like,
no, I know. It sounds.
I'm gonna get an Amazon bestseller on the book.
I watched the Super Bowl spots, and there's just nothing there. Like,
no. But now it's like if it's like they totally missed the point.
Yeah, you're on coke.
No, that's not what I mean. It's just that they totally missed the point that I'm driving at 90 miles an hour. I don't have time to read a fucking paragraph on your billboard. You need like just a few words. But they all got tuned out. And they're still kind of being tuned out, except that now when I do notice them, every single billboard is a new like pot shop.
Oh yeah.
Dispensary. That's the word I'm looking for. Like every one.
That's actually good information.
There's like a new dispensary popping up every 2 days. I swear.
Good.
It's insane.
Yeah.
We can't have like any progress, so we just have to numb it as a society. Fine, whatever.
The first time I, as an adult, went overseas, Ireland specifically, and drove a freeway, expressway, whatever they call them over there, and there were no billboards. That's where it was like,
it just kind of hit you, yeah.
What's missing in this
I think
environment?
we've had this conversation before, and I don't know if we've talked about it on the show or not, but I had the same feeling, I think, driving through Canada.
Yeah.
If you go through the is it the Blue Water Bridge that's down
That's in Huron, Port Huron.
Port Huron? Yeah. If you go that way, you're on the stretch of road for a while, you know, and there's no billboards.
I feel like you get Stockholm syndrome.
There's cops watching how fast you're going through via helicopter, but there's no billboards.
I feel like if you go to a place that's not fully saturated in all the ads, you start to feel a little homesick. You start to be like, this isn't.
Oh, this is what I miss.
I don't.
Well, I mean,
not
no reading material, you know?
Right, exactly.
As you get more north in Michigan, the billboards get a little fewer and far between.
Yeah, when you're on the
it's just that they're but they're
Oh,
more about fast food and Jesus usually.
Yeah,
the fast food stuff is always that's
like
good
hand
intel.
painted signs about Jesus, you know.
Yeah, Jesus saves, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, they painted him as Homer Simpson for some reason.
And he hugs. Jesus floats above his crucifix and hugs.
Speaking
So
of
it sounds
Jesus,
like billboards aren't performing very well. Okay, we both.
Elon Musk.
Of Jesus, how about that Elon Musk?
How about that Elon
Speaking
Musk?
of saviors,
Do we need to do a roundup? Is it time for Elon roundup?
yeah, real quick though, because I would like to spend the most time on the third subject.
Okay.
Where to
start? Where to start?
Do
you want to start with the productivity reports, or would you?
We
like to
can,
start
but that's
earlier?
like a billion years ago at this point.
I know
guys.
that's like earlier this month. I think the second.
That was the second.
Unusual whales.
20 days ago.
Yeah. What even happened of this? Did he?
I don't know.
Did he get good ideas?
Probably nothing.
He's just doing stuff. We haven't gotten a chance to talk about really any of this stuff. Specifically, he was mad about the Super Bowl because his tweet didn't perform as well as Joe Biden's about the Super Bowl, and so his brother, separate, like some relative of his, called like a meeting with a bunch of Twitter engineers. And we're like, we have to figure this out.
Why was it his brother?
I have no idea.
Like, why did that? I read a little bit about that, and I'm like, what?
You need
Why
your
wasn't it just
brother,
him?
or he's like, I need somebody who
Isn't this
it
the
looks
same
like
thing that he fired an engineer because.
Yeah, predating this, Elon was upset about his lack of engagement on his tweets, his lack of impressions, and he brought a bunch of the engineers into a room, and he, I guess, was like worried he was being shadow banned by his own platform, which is very funny to consider. One of the only two remaining principal engineers, like one of the big boys, they brought up a chart and they were like, well, this is consistent with, Elon Musk on Google Trends, right? Like, I mean, you're just not, right now, you're not in the news as much as you were. Like, I think people are kind of burnt out on it. And he fired him. He fucking fired him on the spot. And my suspicion,
how dare him tell him the truth?
My suspicion was basically like what he was he knows like there's like that's legitimate, but he basically wanted to just complain enough until somebody took it on themselves to do the opposite and like boost his tweets unfairly. And he didn't want to say it out loud though, because that's loser shit embarrassing. But eventually like the dam broke and he was like, fuck it, yeah, we're doing it.
I'm surprised that's not happening already.
It is now.
After the first time like somebody, that he complained, you'd think that the engineers would be like, you know what, fuck it, let's
keep our jobs and let's just
boost it.
I got a visa to protect. I'm going to boost this guy's tweets, man.
Front page, modal. Every time someone logs in, latest Elon tweet.
6 million impressions in 30 minutes, man.
Listen, that's a number in a database, folks. We can just fucking get in there.
We'll flip that switch for you.
Easy. I do want to touch on a topic that we talked about before, which is how these tech billionaires are innovators. And I got to say that Musk is quite an innovator because this new paid verification service that he's got now, Meta's got to have one on Instagram and Facebook. So.
Oh, it's not the same reason though.
No, yeah. You mean money?
It's for privacy and security, right?
Yeah, but no, it's not for either of those things. It's for money.
The Meta thing is really funny too, because I saw an ex-Meta engineer talking about how this is actually, they've been working on this for a few years. They've been kind of playing with this idea, but a big part of it is just obviously pivoting from the fact that the ad models are just imploding. And
Yeah.
so they need to pivot in some way. And so it's so funny to see this massive like rebrand. We're doing the metaverse. It's fucking incredible. Like we're changing the world. Like, yeah, that's not working. Let's just charge everyone $12 a month.
Oh, you want to be on Facebook? It's an exclusive club now.
What is their excuse for charging $12 a month again?
They're actually doing like an ID verification. Like they actually are looking at your state ID and they're like, oh, this is the person they're saying they are.
So to stop impersonators or
I guess to like
identity
make an
theft.
overall like better.
So wait, let me get this straight. So to be a verified account, I need to pay $10.99 or $14.99,
whatever it is.
If you're an iOS
you need to pay,
user,
you need to pay a Netflix.
No, it's more money if
the
you're an
base
iOS
Netflix
user.
tier.
Yeah, but if you're an iOS user, it's more money.
It's like 15.
Oh, you guys
yeah.
have more money, so that's good.
So
because Tim needs his cut.
because they're going to verify
Yeah,
my
of course.
account using my driver's license and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a little check mark.
However, and I don't know if this is still true, so take this with a grain of salt. But if I want to delete my account and get rid of all my data, I can send in my photo ID that they're going to then look at and process to verify it's the right person for free.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but they won't give you the cool little check mark and they won't boost your
Yeah,
post.
dude.
or
Yeah, but I
whatever.
don't have to worry about a
Check
check
mark,
mark at
bro.
that point because it's
'Cause
gone.
I'm deleting
It's all
my
gone.
account.
I'm just saying. No, all I'm saying is that they're processing. You know, they're using this excuse of processing your ID.
Well, this
But-
is a monthly charge, though, so this isn't just the one-time fee, right?
It's a monthly charge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the ID...
Yeah, but are they verifying your Preds like?
Well, I think
every-
it's just
They're
constantly
assigning
to-
you
to
a
stop
dedicated
impersonators.
identity verifier, and that identity verifier comes to your house at 3 random times per month, just to confirm that you're still you.
Actually, it's just a van that parks outside your house. It's fine.
Yeah, and that
Trust
shit
it.
They
adds
don't
up.
need a van. It
Trust the
actually
It's not
process.
0% interest rates anymore. They got to charge for that shit.
It doesn't. No, that's not how that works. They ping from your phone. They already know where everything is.
The
They know who you
best,
are.
the best grift though is Musk's idea with the two-factor authentication for brands,
Oh my god!
which
Wait.
you know there's a cost for that now.
I totally
Which
forgot
is
about
just-
the 2FA stuff.
Yeah. Remember, so this is like putting brands in a corner for any brand that's still advertising or still cares about Twitter. Is like, oh,
SpaceX
now I
and
have
Tesla.
to because they have to use two-factor because usually brands are sharing accounts. So two-factor is really the only way to do that and protect yourself without, someone getting a hold of it.
Yeah,
Because usually, somebody has a phone and they're like,
sure.
who's getting the 5-digit code? And then you spread it across, PetSmart
Good
does
good
this. I'm
system,
the one
good
with the
system.
code, so I know. Nonetheless, this is perfect because all brands use
Every week
two-factor.
you get out here and you
I-
paint an even bigger target on your back.
I
Like,
feel-
yeah, I've got
I feel-
$40 billion worth of guitars, and also I hold the keys to every mission
I feel
critical
that
piece of
Meta-
technology in our stack.
Meta actually does that pretty well. For their business accounts, you can bring in other people and they just use their regular Facebook account. And then the admin can give anybody access. And then you log in with your own account, which is kind of nice.
Mhm.
I want it for those of you who don't know the 2FA thing with Twitter. Elon was upset because apparently they have $60 million in costs associated with two-factor authentication over SMS. And it is true that SMS is not the most secure way to do two-factor authentication because there is more vectors for attack there. You can lose your number, you can lose your phone. People can, if they can get a hold of your phone company and convince them that they're you, they can have your phone number reassigned to them.
Transferred, yeah.
The ideal situation is to have a dedicated authenticator app on your phone where the ability to get into it is all encrypted and all that stuff. The way that they're rolling it out is they're saying, okay, anybody who doesn't have Twitter Blue, anyone who doesn't pay this $8 a month, even for individual users, you have to not use SMS two-factor authentication anymore. You can't do it anymore. And if you don't turn it off, you'll get locked out of your account. Their excuse is like, yeah, and it's because like it's a not secure way to do it. But if you give us $8 a month, you can continue doing the unsecure message.
Yeah.
Although I did find out the charge for 2FA over SMS is actually pretty ridiculous. Do you guys know how much it costs or how much Twilio charges per successful verification?
I don't know, probably 2 cents or something.
It's 5
ridiculous
cents.
like that. 5 cents. Wow.
It's 5 cents, which is thick. And I'm sure that Twitter isn't paying that full 5 cents. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're on like volume pricing and everything.
Sure.
I get it. Like it's all about the money, obviously, but it is just very funny how it's like, yeah, no, if you don't pay us $8, like fuck you. Like we
Even if
will
they're
walk you out.
saying a penny per, I mean, that is.
Oh,
that
it's
would be
still, yeah,
absurd
that's
for a company the size
that's
of
steep.
Twitter.
That's steep.
Yeah.
They're rolling a lot of these things into the Twitter Blue. One of my complaints about Twitter is the video length that you can share with friends and stuff. Like if you want to post a video of something, it only goes up to 140 seconds, I think is what it is. But with Twitter Blue, you can post longer videos.
And I mean, like, it kind of-
I'm not paying you like $8 a month just so I can. Post
I mean,
longer
video
videos.
storage
I'm just
and
gonna put it up to
streaming-
YouTube for free and then
That's
link it.
It is expensive. The 2FA thing, though, the cost of it is high. Most platforms understand that the cost of not having two-factor authentication, basically by any means necessary, increasing adoption, that's more expensive because you're dealing with more hacking and it degrades the quality of your platform.
I am Schrodinger surprised here when it comes to advertisers still on Twitter. Like, I can totally see why they are there and why, but I don't understand why they are there at the same time.
I wonder if their rates have gone down, like for what it costs.
I just feel like it was such a dumpster fire for so long. Like, the people that are still there, it's just like, why?
If it's getting cheaper because there's less demand, then it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
He also tweeted, he was like, yeah, no, ads on Twitter, they suck. Nobody ever buys anything from them. Really helping your case here, man.
Nobody ever buys anything from the ads on Twitter. But hey, advertisers, you want to
get out here.
$8 a
get
month
in here, please.
to log into your shit?
Well, I mean, at least they're not liable for the content people post on their platform.
Hey guys, big fan. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the Supreme Court's impending ruling on Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. I don't know a lot about it, despite being a law student, and figured it would be a good question for the oh-so-knowledgeable ones such as yourself.
True.
This guy sounds like a paid actor. Who paid this guy?
Thank you, Charlie.
I'm going to be honest, I don't know that much about 230 as well. I've seen it in the headlines, but I haven't paid too much.
So most people know Section 230 probably from Trump and the Republicans' relentless attacks on Twitter and Facebook and a lot of their quote-unquote tech enemies, the liberal bastions of big tech, and the Republicans' constant attacks due to
the social Marxists.
Yeah, that their messages are being repressed and liberal messages are being promoted. So they're constantly threatening to take Section 230 away. Trump has been quoted saying that at least a dozen or 24 times. And
that's the real reason they banned him.
Yeah, that's the real reason they banned him. So there's two cases, Gonzalez versus Google and Twitter versus Tom Ney, that were recently argued. Tuesday, February 21st was Gonzalez versus Google. Twitter versus Tom Ney was Wednesday, February 22nd. This is really recent. And those both hit on both Section 230 and the anti-terrorism legislation. So essentially, both of those cases are arguing that individuals were harmed or killed in these cases because of ISIS recruitment videos being posted on either YouTube or Twitter. ISIS content, I should say, ISIS recruitment content being posted on both of those platforms. And that content not being censored led directly to the murder of two individuals. So the Supreme Court is actually breaking opposite of what you might think, or maybe not. So basically the Republicans are breaking on, no, this is free speech. These companies, Google, Twitter, they deserve to be protected. And Kagan, Sotomayor are both arguing that maybe there's a case here. Maybe Section 230 needs to be revisited. Maybe these companies do have some responsibility for sharing this content. Specifically, it's focused on not just the fact that the content exists on these platforms, but the content is being promoted as, if you watch this, you might like this. So it's recommended viewing. And we've all been there. We've all went down the YouTube rabbit hole.
It was
where
like
you're
further radicalization.
So
algorithm.
You watch one, I don't know, Joe Rogan interview with Jordan Peterson. Before you know it, you're being inundated with like, watch this Ben Shapiro video, watch this Steven Crowder video, or what have you, and then you're alt-right, and you're
how to get alt-right in 30 minutes.
The recommendation stuff is, I think, because I think for me it's very simple. If it's just like a online place where you can go find stuff and it's not, the content itself isn't like explicitly illegal, then I don't think that they really would have any, I don't really think it would be on them like legally, because you would just put it somewhere else. I mean, that's what the internet is. But by virtue of them having the recommendation algorithms that they have, which is a big part of their business model, it does mean that not only is that content visible on their platform and available, they're actually, like you said, they're pushing it. They're giving it space to be able to not just passively like people find it, like they're punting that content to people.
Well,
yeah, but
an algorithm is.
Yeah, an algorithm is.
Right, but I mean, but it's it's their car.
But
yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't the same laws apply to just regular broadcast news?
In what way?
Well, I mean, I understand that an algorithm is pushing the data in the case of like the websites, but you know,
Broadcast news would get sued though if they were
right. They actually do. They are liable.
But why?
Because it's their content. It's the difference between the difference between like publishing the. It's like Section 230 says no. The existence of the content on the platform is not the platform's endorsement.
And let's just rewind really quick. So
Gotcha.
Section 230, the spirit of the law is a newspaper can be held liable for their content, even with freedom of the press, even with freedom of speech. They can be held liable because simply the quantity of the content is easy to censor. There's no excuse for them to print.
And they have editorial control over every line that goes.
Exactly. Every single piece, every character within that's printed.
And they're paying for that content.
I guess
with
YouTube, they get trillions of hours of videos uploaded a month. And it was
user generated versus.
Yeah. So you have to rely on algorithmic censorship most of the time. You can do some crowdsourcing things. You can have your users flag things. But oftentimes something's flagged, it's taken down, it's uploaded moments later, dozens of times. It spreads like a virus, and before it's just too much. People flip the video. We were talking about this before, so people can get around copyright. They'll flip it horizontally. They'll pitch shift it a little bit so the algorithm can't catch it the next time, or what have you. So there's always loopholes, and it's basically an impossible task for a human being or for any amount of human beings to keep ahead of.
Well, and I think one of the things that people don't consider when talking about content moderation, especially manual content moderation, it's an important thing. One of the most taxing parts of it is the fact that people have to look at that content. Imagine the shit that content moderators have to wade through on some of these platforms.
I used to be a content moderator for a dating app, and it's horrible.
Really?
Yeah, it's as a user for the app. If you're on there for a little bit, they reach out to you and they're like, "Hey, would you feel like moderating?" And then you start getting all of these posts that you have to moderate.
Were you checking to see if it's a valid user or just a multitude?
No, usually it's images that go against the
policy.
The policy. Terms. So it's like, yep, that's a dick. Yep, that's a dick. Yep, that's a dick.
So you were
mostly your job is looking at dicks.
I mean, it's stuff like that. Like,
it's hot dog or not hot dog.
Yeah, kind of.
You would not believe.
It's
almost never a hot dog.
Is this person's profile being racist? Stuff like that, or sexist. It's just stuff like that. But to your point, Drew, like,
you were so good at dating apps that they were like, you should be in charge of.
Or he was on there for so long.
I was on there for so long.
I'm sorry.
I mean, no, it's fine. I was thinking it. I was supposed to, but no, it's funny. They
get him.
They but no, it's to your point though, Drew. Like the stuff that you get, you have to like wade through.
They have to like therapy costs are like
it can be pretty bad.
The OpenAI team was complaining about that. They outsourced it somewhere. I forget where, Pakistan or something, but. Yeah, these people were having like nightmares and stuff, and it was an absolutely grueling job because they were just constantly going over the most gruesome the most gruesome photos you could imagine. So to teach DALL-E, it was to teach one of those products the difference between
it's a thankless fucking job.
Yeah, for sure. But
it already knows if it's good and you're bad and we're bad. It already knows that.
Here's a quick thing an original thought on. Well, maybe it's not original. It's probably no original thoughts on our podcast.
Be careful about that because we might not be protected for long.
Here's a thought that I had based on reading this for the past couple of days. The Electronic Frontier Foundation has really great articles on this. They're absolutely pro Section 230, unapologetically pro Section 230 because they think it's going to threaten free speech.
The internet would get really fucking shitty if Section 230
there's no way. There's no way
if there's not something decent to replace it.
The Supreme Court doesn't write laws, so if they struck down Section 230, that would be the end of free speech online, as we know it.
Like,
no doubt.
Probably half of all YouTube videos would go unlisted immediately.
But my thought is the trouble here overall is these platforms spend way too much money, time, and effort on ad revenue and engagement and making sure that you're seeing the next pair of pants or Nike shoes or whatever in your 15-second pre-roll than they do on censorship. Basically, my point is capitalism is not compatible with free speech in this instance. I am totally pro free speech. But because they're so fixated on making sure, those recommendations pop up, making sure that you go down that rabbit hole, making sure that you literally never walk away. And I brought up my son quite a few times, and he's of the age that he watches a lot of YouTube. And he actually had this question about why don't they display the thumbs down on YouTube, but they display the thumbs up? Why don't they display both of them? Listen, they don't care about either. All they care about is that you're watching. So that thumbs down thing is just some nonsensical metric that maybe creators are looking into and thinking, oh, well, maybe I won't post that content. But in all intents and purposes, a thumbs down to a YouTube algorithm would count just as much as a thumbs up.
I would imagine it'd be very similar.
Metric.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's people are watching it and we're serving ads against it.
Doing a comment, pressing the notification icon, the bell.
Well, and that's the thing.
Whatever you do is going to be way more important than...
it just all it does is mark engagement.
Yeah, so activating an ISIS terrorist cell is low on the totem pole when you have to make, 3% year over year profit gains. This essentially needs to be protected. Section 230, I firmly think needs to be protected, but these issues will continually arise due to the fact that YouTube, Twitter, they're never going to invest. I mean, look at Elon just fired all his content moderation team. They're never going to invest adequately in the algorithms and the people that are required to tune those algorithms in order to stop this stuff from happening.
That's not an objective of theirs. Why would it be an objective of theirs? It doesn't really impact their bottom line all that much. And that's with 230. I mean, if you could replace it with something better, I'm sure that we could maybe, in an ideal world, we could have legislation that protects the open spirit of the internet while also trying to hold platforms accountable for their reckless pursuit of profit, which is causing all of these problems. And, they're completely squandering the responsibility that they have. They are, like, at this point, arbiters of human knowledge and human information, and they've so concentrated just from a couple decades of advancing technology and the concentration of the gains of that. I don't have the solution to all of that, short of obviously change the economic system to something better. I don't see that happening. So I think obviously we have to have more practical conversations, more...
Yeah, and the only compatible way to actually control this information and to censor this information in a, I wouldn't even call this a just way, this is actually an even more awful way, is what's happening to Twitter right now, of a mass exodus of advertisers because they don't want their product alongside, I don't know, ISIS training videos.
Yeah, but just
ISIS tweets or whatever.
But for every company that doesn't want their shit alongside ISIS videos, there's one that does or doesn't care if it.
Yeah, no, you're right. But we can only hope in that specific instance. And again, I'm not even certain that this is going to really meaningfully change because the whole design, the whole system is set up for this very thing.
Yeah.
But
they keep you in your echo chamber as well.
If you did have like a 75% exodus or even a 50% exodus and it hit the bottom line, then that social network may cease to be a social network simply because it can't pay its bills anymore.
Well, no, then you get Saudi Arabia to invest in.
When Facebook first started, I would call it a social network, but now I don't even know if I would call it.
I think
that
the model.
anymore.
I don't think that same. I don't think it's going to be that again. I think if you look at where the money is, I think TikTok kind of proved out that there's a lot more power in globally recommended algorithmic shit with a little bit of human to human connections. I think it's very sad, but like. TikTok has very little to do with like connecting with your friends, right?
Yeah.
And Twitter less and less has anything to do with like staying in the know with your friends. Facebook, people don't really like using it anymore. So like,
I think Twitter, I feel that way about Twitter. Like I feel that Twitter is kind of a pointless platform, right? But
I don't.
Well, I do. But I'm saying. But I've talked to several people who say that Twitter is actually just a really great platform in like these niche communities where they can share ideas and information with all of these people in these communities that they don't have to necessarily like be connected with, on a personal level with Facebook or something like that. Like, there was the whole exodus of Twitter that happened where everyone was trying to go to like, was it Post or Mastodon or something like that? But they all don't do what Twitter does. And, that's keeping everybody in the loop on, the hashtags right.
To me, Twitter, I think had the potential to be, and it was in many cases, something very interesting and very special. It was where the news was. Like a lot of
catalyst. It was one of the main avenues for communication for the Arab Spring. It was a significant network for dissonance and for revolution for a brief period of time.
Yeah.
But it was very important. But like anything, Jack Dorsey complained like right off the bat, right when it became public, the capitalist motivations outshined the usefulness.
Think about, we have these rolling power outages over the last few weeks. Our utility company was not very responsive. Like all of their systems were kind of going down. And so what I've always done in that situation is you go to Twitter and you just search for the keywords, the name of utility, like, and you kind of start to get just a crowdsource sense of what's going on with this stuff. People have to, and you kind of have to filter some of that on your own, but where else do you go to get that kind of fire hose when you need it?
Actually, I use Down Detector a lot.
Yeah, Twitter was the first down detector though.
But it's like, okay, so I can see like a bunch of, comments of, people who go to Down Detector, but it's like, if you have Twitter as a platform where people, like, I think it is interesting because it does support those niche communities and those niche things, but if you have enough people on it, it's like, you always know that if you look something up on it, you're going to see people talking about it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
And that's why I think something like Twitter should be a public utility in an ideal world.
Yep. No, I mean, Twitter, I didn't find it that useful of a utility, but now that you've mentioned that, you're right. I've done that several times actually, where I've had issues where I can't get through on a phone call because it's not the services that they're down. It's just wait times, right? But their social media people are able to help you immediately.
Because it's happening publicly and they don't want to look like shit.
Well, but even if it isn't happening publicly, even if like you just message them for a personal problem, with like your line or something like that, it's like you go to I'm
feeling kind of bummed out.
No, I mean, you go to a direct message though, and they handle it right there. And it's just like, it's like the same people though are handling it. I don't understand.
When I say it's where
off track.
It's where the news is though. I mean, we've talked about this before. Just how many news articles you see are just downstream from shit that originally broke on Twitter.
Yeah.
And so kind of it's a fire hose, right? Like you get that that's what makes Twitter more addictive, where it's like you have that kind of access to just the raw information on things as it happens.
I started kind of getting away from the social media apps, all of them really, once they started changing the settings to where I would want to see stuff that I haven't seen, like or in chronological order, but then they started pushing it to, the way they want you to see it. Now there's more ads injected into it. Your feed isn't even your feed anymore.
I might be in the minority here, but
feed that they want you to have.
I've never really had much of a problem with the recommended feed. Like I've always kind of thought that was good.
I think it just depends on like what you're looking for. Like sometimes it's okay, but for the most part, Facebook was a good example because you want
something like Facebook. I would absolutely want to see like all my friends' stuff
in a chronological order,
right?
Yeah,
but
and
like
you can.
For something like a Twitter or a TikTok.
A lot of these things now too, they like to refresh all of the content if you leave or come back like the second that you reload in the app.
It's more ethereal, yeah.
Yeah. So you lose your spot and all that kind of stuff, and they're like, "Oh, we got to serve you these new ads."
The only thing I dislike, what you're kind of touching on a little bit, is the echo chamber aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I feel safe. I feel protected.
I feel like I'm in a nice little bubble.
Yeah. No, I mean, you were touching on it too with the promotion and the the recommended stuff, because obviously all the recommended thing is going to do is just recommend stuff that they think you like already. So of course it's going to be echo chamber stuff
or stuff that or stuff you don't like, with somebody under it being like, "This is bad," and you're like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah. Well,
I agree that the bad things are bad.
Yeah. Honestly, when we first looked at this, we kind of touched on 230 before we started talking about it, and I kind of thought it was bad. I was like, we need to get rid of it. I didn't know that much about it, but I still don't think that these companies need to be necessarily protected at the same time.
But the implications of that.
I had this going in, but then honestly, listening to Randy kind of talk about it, and you guys bring about some valid points. I kind of agree with you now. I don't think it should be repealed, or maybe it needs to be changed. I don't know. I don't think that they should have like this get out of jail free card necessarily for all of it.
Yeah, and the thing about it is
they shouldn't be allowed to just do these like echo chamber type algorithms that just constantly, like you say, like kind of force you in a direction. It's kind of like that.
It's not even that. It's because if you stumble on a sewing video because you're getting into sewing.
Sure.
I was trying to think of different term.
Yeah, sorry. And, I don't know about sewing to help you.
You're watching on a sewing machine, and then before you know it, you're watching hems, and you're watching all these different videos. That's totally fine. That's the algorithm working in a wholesome and valid way. But if you stumble on something that's slightly radical, and then before you know it, you're down to ISIS training videos and why all the infidels need to die and Muhammad is great and blah, blah, blah.
Most people are fine with some forms of radicalization and not fine with other forms of radicalization.
Yeah.
And so the obvious question is just a general free speech question, like who gets to decide, which rabbit holes, which echo chambers are okay. And I'm just not comfortable with saying that
that's fair.
Like we should be like writing policies around like
but should there be like something on it? Like would a labeling thing be a thing? Like, hey, this is
it's the same thing, same
yeah,
problem.
but they could do it on all of it. I don't know.
Just like a little meter where it's like this is X percentage radical.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
I don't obviously
have a solution.
We don't like some of the current results of the system as it currently exists.
And
I don't know
fair,
if it's a
like
policy question.
Maybe some people do want to be radicalized by ISIS. I don't know.
Clearly that's the one. Yeah, clearly
that's
like,
the algorithm working.
Right, there's a demand for it. They're just fulfilling that demand.
The funny thing, Randy, about
but actually joining a radical group isn't a crime.
No, the crime was murder.
Is doing crimes, right? And so it's like
we do.
So the question is like, what content is criminal versus what content isn't criminal, and that's an extremely complicated question. Like, forget 230, but the thing is, when you get rid of 230, then all of the platforms get extremely fucking skittish about everything, and you basically just lose.
But to devil's advocate, there has been an extreme increase of violent radicalization, specifically alt-right and stuff like white supremacy and Nazism and what have you. But the same rings true for groups like ISIS and a lot of terrorists.
And that's partly, like, I'm sure these platforms are partly to blame, but unfortunately it's not illegal to be a Nazi.
But the trouble, and this is both
it probably should be,
both a combination of the echo chamber effect and just the existence of the internet, which allows marginal groups to be in more cohesive networks. Like we were talking about furries. Furries would not have the conferences they have today and the support they have today if there wasn't the internet. Everything from forums to user groups to Twitter channels to YouTube videos have kind of brought a bunch of marginal people that probably all thought they were alone in the world together. And a decade or 15 years ago, atheists found each other and found Richard Dawkins, their Bible, on Reddit and all those channels.
And then they dropped the ball real bad, didn't they?
Occupy Wall Street movement, very similar story. They all found each other. It's like all these marginal groups that have been struggling for years and years and years to find cohesive.
And then they do, and then they implode in on themselves.
That does happen often. When the end result is further marginalization and oppression and violence, and it's a tough nut to crack. And I wouldn't throw my hands up in the air and say that it's impossible. I'm sure there's some way, without thwarting free speech, some way to slow down this.
And maybe this is reductive, but you touched on this. Like, the driving force for these things is just the profit incentive, and that the profit incentive is also what is creating material conditions that lend themselves more towards violent radicalization of all stripes. And some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. That's barely a joke. But the overall thing is that it feels like this is just trying to treat symptoms, right? Like, if it wasn't these platforms, like, we're just gonna play whack-a-mole, similar to like the DEA doing the exact same thing, where it's like you just go into these, like, you take out these random issues, and you're like, oh, we're gonna focus all of our, this is the thing, this is the main thing, we need to focus all of our time and energy on this. Like, for under Obama, it was like the dentist is giving out too many painkillers. We need to it's like, that's not, there's larger structural issues here than like the point of sale, but we're like incapable of addressing those things. So we just have to build these really easily digestible issues because it's all media. Like, even the stuff, the fucking government, even the Supreme Court, it's all media.
Do you think that if the monetary incentive wasn't there, that if we went back to the beginning of YouTube where there really wasn't an algorithm, do you think that would be better?
Well, I think to Drew's point, it's a combination of the monetary incentive and the material conditions on the ground. What he's suggesting is that, people make a living wage. Healthcare is a right. That kind of stuff. Like,
the demand for radicalism drops a lot if people
if people
are comfortable and have are able to live with dignity.
Crime in the inner city. Crime in the inner city drops when you give people money.
That's one side of the radicalization.
It's almost like poverty as a motivation for crime. No.
There's still the hate side of radicalization, which isn't usually driven by money.
I think the hate is
It can be. I can
fear.
see it, but I think there's other factors involved.
There's actually a beautiful quote. I forget who this is sourced from, but fear and hate is a cover for pain. So it's basically a way for someone to act out because they have trauma or pain.
And you're funneling existing anxieties and
that
pain.
Is most definitely from material. There's a reason that ISIS has such a strong foothold in some of the poorest communities in the Arab world. Yeah.
Because they like make the water run.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, well, at least in those areas and whatever. And it's like they're offering an alternative to people's like horrifying, shitty situation.
The Taliban was cutting off hands of people that were exploiting their workers. Like, they brought order where there was none in a very brutal and absolutely disgusting way. And, you know, Sharia law and all that stuff. But for poor people, it was like a savior. You know, it's like the mob in a poor neighborhood, you know?
People
like,
don't understand
when
like,
everybody's getting robbed by petty thugs.
We've all seen The Godfather.
But everyone looks at like they look at you know, ISIS, they look at terror cells, they look at people who would mug people on the street. Like, you look at them as like something other than like human beings. It's like so far removed from me. Like, you could never understand what would motivate somebody to do that. But like, coming to the realization that if you were raised in the same conditions and you had the same environment and you were born in the same place in the same way, like, you would be those people. The way that you go about your life is determined more than anything else on your environment. Understanding that, like, the more that we can have a positive impact on people's environments, the more these types of things would drop in severity and just frequency.
But even beyond that, like, back to the original point, which is the profit incentive, which you were just touching on, Carl, being engagement and being like viewership. Yeah, that's probably a step in the right direction. Let's try to revisit that because, you know, world socialism is probably not right around the corner. So right off the bat, maybe an augmentation of a 1996 law, which is Section 230, Communication Decency Act, was passed in 1996. So yeah, maybe revisiting a law when there was only like 4 million people using the internet.
Well, I don't even mean that. I just meant more like if we got rid of...
Lots has changed.
If we changed YouTube to where, you know, it was less focused on the profit incentive, you know, and the clicks and the ads, and we go back to the OG YouTube, where it was just like a cool place to serve videos. And there wasn't really that algorithm there. I mean, maybe there was when it first came out. I don't really remember, but, you know, it was just videos. Like, if you wanted to see sewing videos, you had to type something.
Yeah, but this stuff, the algorithmic stuff, like, that's always going to happen. Like, you can try to revert back to that, but like, that shit's always going to progress because all of that was like part of a natural evolution of what's working, what's making money, what's not making money. Like, we ended up here because it's where the blind profit incentive led us. Like, this is just the unfiltered Randy, and like, we need to lean into like our worst impulses because
I'm saying that if it didn't recommend videos, you know,
I still think you'd need some levels of censorship and some levels.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you wouldn't have censorship. I'm just saying
like filled with child porn or just regular porn.
Yes, I'm not talking about like no censorship. I'm just talking about like get rid of the algorithms aspect of it that pushes the new content to you. You know, like, hey, oh, you like this, like this. I mean, yeah, I know it's
But
useful.
when you search sewing, right? Mm-hmm. And you see sewing videos. How does it sort them?
Who cares?
It gives you just the most recent sewing video. They would care because somebody has to build that. So it just gives you the most recent sewing video.
Well, let it give me the options to sort it the way I want. Whether it's most recent.
Okay, so what are your sort options? Most recent?
Yeah, most
relevant?
No,
most relevant?
Nope, not most relevant. Most liked.
Okay. Most commented.
Most liked would be. So, but most liked, it's like, okay, so like now as a person who's making
building
content,
an algorithm, guys,
that's what I'm saying. It's all algorithms. It's all like, you can't like, even if it's as simple as sort by latest, that's an algorithm.
My point isn't that there's a problem with the recommendation algorithm.
I just mean I don't think it should be recommending. Like,
I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is they focus so much. They focus so much time and effort and money, to repeat myself, on the advertising section of the business. I bet more people are working in that branch of YouTube's offices than on their content moderation.
It's the money branch.
I can guarantee you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their content moderation teams are the first teams to get cut, and Musk is proof of that. Twitter, it's proof of that. Like, they just slash those guys and gals. Like, they don't care because it's not making money. If anything, it's stopping the flow of potentially more engaging tweets or content based on the provocativeness of said content.
Starting to use like the flagging button as a signal to boost it in the algorithm. Where it's like, that shit's fire.
This is
that beheading video is fire.
Man, that ISIS terrorist video. It's
you say that, but as a teen,
see the cuts on that?
Younger than teens, I saw a beheading video as a child, and it was
I think we all
engaging.
It was.
ISIS posted.
I still kind of have nightmares of seeing that. It was like terrible.
Faces to Death was like a big thing when we were kids. Remember? Like you could rent those.
Oh no, I didn't. I hate those things.
Yeah, well, it was a big thing. I didn't like it either. I didn't want to watch the George Floyd thing, but it was like shoved down my throat.
I would actually say that
pre
like this, it was actually easier like for the middle school me to find fucked up shit online than it is now.
So the algorithms have gotten a little bit better in some ways then.
Right. Like we're like that's what, like to weed out the particularly like fucked up shit.
Egregious. Yeah, because the algorithms are again trained probably by human beings that are forced to watch the most gruesome, disgusting stuff and flag it. But when it comes to these like more behavioral,
content moderators only occupation with a higher suicide rate than dentists. I just made that up.
An ISIS training video, for instance, some subtle radicalization, something that gets you thinking if you're leaning a certain way, Or
it's not illegal to show guys running through tires and jumping on monkey bars, folks.
I'm not even going to pick on like Muslim individuals, Christian individuals, KKK stuff, whatever.
The Proud Boys,
lean a certain way. Yeah, Proud Boys. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect because we're within that white male American bullshit fucking quotient. So yeah, if you lean a certain way, and we know people who lean a certain way, and you watch enough content, then before you know it, you start down the slippery slope where you start blaming women or trans folks or whatever for all society's ills, and the breakup of the family, and 80% of divorces initiated by women, and all of a sudden you're fucking a psycho, like
80% of divorces are initiated by women.
Yeah, I think it's even higher.
Yeah, is that because there's fucking abuse going on? So,
it's crazy how that spiked after it became legal for them to file for divorce. Weird.
But that happened after it became illegal to beat your wife, right? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ.
It's usually predicated by the woman making more money than the man. At least that's what Steven Crowder would convince you of.
Get good, idiot.
Make more money
what
than
me. What are you doing? Go fucking get on your grind, dumbass. What the fuck? What the fuck? Put up or shut up.
Maybe you should put a gun in that holster that you got.
Do you have any idea how many bears I made at Build-A-Bear today? And I get home and you're just on your computer. I make $400,000 a year. You don't need to work there anymore. I'm paraphrasing a tweet.
Anything else?
I got nothing else.
I don't know. I'm kind of depressed about this because I'm thinking about the ISIS beheading videos that my middle school friend sent me.
It is
terrible.
Really.
I don't even think mine was ISIS because it was way earlier.
Or whatever it was. I've seen mine. Fucking.
I was kind of touching on this earlier, but like those videos, you were saying middle school it was easier to find, but it was really easy for us to find too because it wasn't just YouTube. That now it's almost like YouTube is kind of like it's either YouTube or Reddit, right? Like that's where you're going to find stuff. But it used to be like so many different sites. I mean, Newgrounds was a big one, or there was another one that had a bunch of stuff. I can't remember it, but there were several of these types of sites that had all this gruesome shit on it.
We make a lot of fun about the YouTube kids video where it's like Elsa and Spider-Man and they're together and they're both pregnant. Like how fucked up it is that like that's what 3-year-olds watch. But yeah, looking back on it,
no, that's nothing.
The little pocket of that I happened to like grow up in, like the shit that kids would be sending around. The shit that kids would be sending around to each other, fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
no, we're in a very similar situation. Yeah.
And I think that like our generation when we were younger, I think the shit that we were passing around was probably even more insane than the stuff that you guys were passing.
Probably,
around.
Yeah.
Because
it was
like
all on DVD though.
No, it wasn't. Like when the internet first came out, man, I just remember like there was some bad stuff on there.
Oh well, yeah, it was the total Wild West.
Really bad stuff.
No, I'm telling you, man, the first 3 websites, it was probably some message forum about ham radio, a search engine, and then a porn site. I mean, it's like, porn was
and beheading videos.
There were more porn sites.
Yeah.
Like it was hard to avoid the porn sites.
I'm mostly talking about like the wildly. I'm talking about like the wildly violent, like
wildly violent stuff. Yeah,
like the porn stuff, like whatever. But well, obviously like if it's like unconsensual bullshit, like that's obviously beyond the pale. But
I recall like because putting you in middle school, which I don't know exactly which year that was, but I can kind of figure it out doing the math.
Early 2010s.
I remember when ISIS posted that video. I'm absolutely certain.
I think we're thinking about the same one.
Yeah, there was an ISIS video that was posted of a journalist getting his head, getting his head chopped off, and the guy's like, gave his little message. I think even the ISIS fighter, whatever, radical, spoke in English, and it was. He actually didn't even have that thick of an accent. Like it was like American English, and it was.
Mine was different. Like I'm going to describe it, and I know this is terrible, but I'm going to do it anyway. But mine was like, all it was basically like a close up of some dude's head, and they had him, kind of like back like this, and basically, it was in a different language, and then they had one of those like big like Rambo knives, and they just like jabbed it like right into there, and then just cut it out, and like just blood. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! I was probably like 14.
Yeah.
It's like
free speech, man.
Yeah, free speech.
So Charlie,
that shit's illegal. That content is actually like illegal content. Like that's.
I think the whole point is an augmentation or a review of by Congress, not by SCOTUS, by Congress of Section 230.
Our fucking system
is necessary. Now, I'm not sure if the regulation would be. Maybe some of these like YouTubes of the world have to dedicate so much of their budgets to content moderation or something. I'm just spitballing here, but there should be some meaningful change that changes the direction and changes the focus. So someone like Musk can't just walk in and like gut their entire content moderation team.
They should be nationalized.
That is well.
But again,
I'm
like content
steps here.
Content moderation is still like pretty subjective.
It is to an extent.
I would like it to be nationalized so we can vote on it.
To an extent, it's subjective, but some things I think could be pretty clearly voted. Like if call for violence and calls for oppression and stuff like that. I think.
Well, I mean, even think about how recently it was actually difficult in most states to even get some resolution for like a revenge porn case. Like people could post your like compromising videos and photos of you online without your consent, and the legal framework just didn't exist to be able to do anything about it. And now with like the deep fake AI porn shit, you don't have to be aware of that even existing. Like you didn't even have to be in it. You don't have to be. Somebody could just use your likeness, explicitly invoke your likeness, and make you do anything and distribute it. And so I think that is like a place where like our existing frameworks of laws have just no way to interface with.
Yeah, it's kind of like those videos that you sent me of Joe Biden and Obama, and they're funny.
Well, they're not having sex with each other.
Yeah,
they're just playing COD zombies.
They could be, but
Minecraft.
But what's you send me those things and I laugh because they're fucking funny. But at the same time,
very good.
In the back,
it's the only good use of AI, generative AI.
Yeah. In the back of my head, I'm like, this is not going to be good.
And it's getting better.
Two years from now, like I don't think you'll be able to tell the difference between them actions, other than the context.
As far as the subjectiveness of it, I do agree to an extent. I mean, Tennessee just passed a law. I'm not sure if it's absolutely passed, but the Republican Congress of Tennessee, the state Congress, just passed a law that's outlawing drag queen shows.
Yeah.
So
how do they define that? Just like dancing in clothes?
No, I thought.
I'm just going back to Carl's point about.
I thought they weren't outlawing it. They wanted them to be marked as adult content.
Okay. Well, in the headline that I saw, it said out loud. But,
maybe it's a different state that's doing the adult content.
It's.
Well, I mean, in Florida though, they're doing this thing where it's like if you call somebody a bigot, they can sue you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a weird place.
Yeah.
But I do think when it comes to like these radicalization kind of things, we are further from a subjective place than we need to be in a lot of instances. I mean, both of these cases, the victims' families are suing because these people were killed.
Yeah.
And they have direct connection to the individuals that killed them being radicalized by YouTube or Twitter. Like, I mean, that
makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that would be. I absolutely understand. Like I get it, and I
get it. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean I think honestly, like in these cases, like if somebody got killed, and you can connect it to that, I mean, hopefully they get something out of it.
Yeah. Real quick note, as far as the SCOTUS is concerned, it looks like they're probably punting this back down to the lower court to get more clarification. Doesn't seem like there's the numbers to actually overturn Section 230. I mean, it's Republican run, and most of the Republicans, Gorsuch and who was quoted, and Kavanaugh, both are on record of protecting the law. So it doesn't look like it's going anywhere, but we will update our listeners in the summer when it's revealed.
See, hopefully that was a deep enough dive on that.
Until then, we have a voicemail that you can join Charlie and Katie. Katie didn't choose to use the service, but it's at wedocrime.com/voicemail. And we have a YouTube channel at youtube.com/@wedocrime that you can watch our subjectively pretty faces.
They're objectively pretty.
Bye. Now watch this drive.
We have to protect our juniors. We're not selling anybody's data.
Now watch this drive.